So we prepared an Ayurvedic herb list, and it's a glossary, and it's still a work in progress. So you're going to go from A, herbs starting with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So today I think we have herbs from A to D. And so every day, every Saturday that we have a class, we'll move from, one. It's just simply to do the A, B, C, D. So these are some of them are the most important Ayurvedic herbs. So we don't have 25 herbs here, but we have tried to put 4 or 5 most important herbs here. So the first one in the order of importance, the most important herb we've listed in A is Amalaki. So I'm going to pause recording, and I'm just going to ask you a few questions about these herbs, whatever you know of it. If you're to be an Ayurvedic practitioner, we should know our herbs inside out, outside in, their combinations. There's so many herbs. There's 6,000 Ayurvedic herbs. There's no way we can cover all of them. Some of them don't even grow anymore. They're extinct. And also, we did all these spices in Ayurvedic nutrition. They're also dravya. There's also herbs. So let's move on and talk about energetics. Some of the most important herbs, Amalaki is really, it's tridoshic. It's tridoshic, but it's best for pitta. And also Amalaki, when you first get it, it's a little sour tasting. Actually, it's extremely sour, but it's also bitter. So till now we have done tastes which are, okay, this is bitter, or this is sour, or this is salty. We're actually moving on to complex rasas now. So you have now rasas which are, Amalaki has 2 or 3 rasas. It is bitter and it is sour. Some Amalaki is also sweet. So there's a combination of rasas here. So that makes it a Rasayana or a tonic, that itself. So it affects so many dhatus, and it affects the dushyas as well. Arjuna is a heart tonic. It's a heart tonic. It helps the heart. So Arjuna is a bark of a tree. It helps the heart. Ashoka is also a bark of a tree, and it has an affinity. It's very astringent in nature. It's very drying. It's very bitter, and it has an affinity for the blood or the rakta dhatu. Normally, we'll give it to women who have very heavy-duty bleeding, or their periods are not regulating, so we give it to women sometimes. And the best form for Ashoka is not a pill or not a ghee, but a wine. Ashoka is given in a wine. Why a wine? This is one way to give it. And it's also easy because most women who are suffering from, let's say, heavy bleeding, we don't have time to give them herb, and if they're taking Ashoka regularly, they don't need the wine form. It's called Ashoka Arishtam. It's Arishtam, herbal wine. Let me just write that down. Arishtam. Arishtam means wine. So there are 2 most famous Ayurvedic herbal wines. One is Ashoka Arishtam, and one is Dashamula Arishtam. There we go. You have the Dashamula Arishtam, and these are also available in ghee form, in tea form, in tablet form, and gulika form. But okay, let's say you have a person who has, let's say, IBS, for instance. Do we make the wine? No, Jennifer, we don't make the wine. You get Ashoka Arishtam. If you have a person who has malabsorption, whose body is not digesting, so if they are not digesting, the herbs will not get digested. The dravya is not going to get digested. It will go straight out. So herbs are useless because herbs are not drugs. They're herbs, they're plants. They have to get digested by the body just like regular food. If somebody's Agni is down, their Agni is, they have Visham Agni. For example, if somebody has Tikshna Agni and they have high Apana, Tikshna Agni, they have diarrhea. That means the food is literally getting burned up and straight out of them, and they have malabsorption. The body is not, the food is getting burned up and consumed by the acid and the enzymes and going straight through as diarrhea. And at the same time, this person has heavy bleeding. Very typical case of they need astringent drying herbs. So the food is going to stay. You want to dry out their acid. You want to dry out, slow down the production of enzymes. And you want to decrease the apana, right? So this person is not absorbing anything. If we were to give Ashoka in a pill or a powder or churnam form, probably it would not get absorbed, right? Then to give it in what is, when you give something which has been formulated as a tincture or an alcohol, then it is directly absorbed. As soon as you put it in your mouth, in the tongue, it is directly absorbed through the tongue into the blood. It doesn't, it bypasses the whole digestion. Does that make sense to you? Wine will go straight into the blood with the herb. It'll bypass, it doesn't need to go, it doesn't need to be broken down because it's already broken down. So that's how aristam or tinctures or wine become very important. But it's not like you drink a glass of it. It's something like 1 teaspoon, you know, or half a teaspoon. That's the amount you drink. I have given, you know, senna and triphala in the tea form as well. I'll have you know. Senna is a very powerful laxative, and I found this company called the Bitter Herbs and they do tinctures or wines, and they had senna and they had quite a few Ayurvedic herbs in a wine. So people who are chronically constipated or people who have a very high agni, I've been known to give that in aristam form just for a little while. And especially when somebody is a vata, you don't want to give anything in aristam or a tincture form. But still, and also you want to know if their liver is up to it. So Dashamula is also sometimes given in aristam form, but you have to be careful. I would give Dashamula aristam to a pitta person, but not really to vata because aristam is extremely drying. It's alcohol. And also pitta, I'll give like half a teaspoon. That's all. Very, very, very small amounts. So we have the aristam form. Then Ashwagandha again is a tonic and can be given in so many forms. Now, you know, we will go through the lecture that Dr. Sahana had done, and I've put up the recording of that lecture, and we'll play that again because I'm going to stop it in a few times and ask you questions as well. So let's move on to Amalaki. So this is Amalaki by Organic India. I love their stuff. What are the energetics of Amalaki? Amalaki is Rasayana, meaning it is good for all the 7 dhatus. So if you have somebody who have, let's say, Rasa Dhatu Kashaya, Rakta Dhatu issues, Mamsa Dhatu issues, all the way to Shukra Dhatu. You know that their dosha has traveled, especially Pitta dosha. What will happen when Pitta has traveled to Rasa? What will happen when Pitta travels to Rasa and Rakta? Does anyone know? Do you remember? I think we'll have to rehash the entire Ayurvedic anatomy as well. Yes, yes. When Pitta is traveling to Rakta Dhatu, there is bleeding from the nose, and it's possible there's bleeding from, heavy bleeding. So we were talking about this lady who was heavy bleeding. So her Pitta is so high, it's traveled. When Pitta has traveled to Mamsa Dhatu, what will it do to the muscles? What qualities will muscles have if Pitta has traveled there? There's so much inflammation. If Jennifer and I, we massage people. When people are inflamed, you can't put pressure. You can't do anything because everything hurts and they're inflamed and they're in so much pain, and it's a very sharp pain. They have to take, like Tylenol or ibuprofen, anti-inflammatories. So it's really bad. So Amalaki is so wonderful because Amalaki will go deep into the dhatus and it will start removing the pitta very slowly. I give you one example. I had one lady where her pitta was in Mamsa dhatu, especially in her back. She had all these back issues and shoulder issues, and she had so much heat. And when you touch there, that portion of her back felt hotter than others. Now, if you remember when you came for the workshop, the Panchakarma workshop, we had a boy and we did Kati Basti, and Jennifer and I, we were touching him and portions of his spine felt, far more hot than others. So we changed it to a more cooling oil immediately, right? So also that boy, I gave him Amalaki later, so he's feeling better. So Amalaki is so wonderful because Amalaki will go deep into the dhatus and will start removing the dosha from the dhatus one by one. So it's amazing, and Amalaki can be given. And if somebody asks you, you can say Amalaki has the highest amount of vitamin C and antioxidant known to man because they've done clinical studies on it. So it is very, very high in vitamin C and antioxidant. You can say that. But anything which is high in vitamin C is sour, and sour foods cannot be given to pitta because sour foods will usually increase, and citrus will increase the digestive enzyme and acid. But Amalaki, even though it is sour, it is also bitter, but it has the energetic of cooling down pitta. That's why it is most important for pitta person. But it's equally important for vata and even kapha as well. So it's such an important tonic. Look at the rasa here. It is not just sour. It is also sweet and pungent and bitter and astringent. So this tells you it is tridoshic. But its virya is cooling. So obviously if we give it to a kapha or vata person, smaller amounts. So herein, we will talk about dosages in a while. So it will be definitely a smaller dosage. Vipaka is sweet. It is cooling, it's sweet. So again, of course, the vipak is very good for both vata and pitta, but not that great for kapha. So its vipak is sweet. And dosha affinity is it's vat, pit, kaph. It's tridoshic, but it's best for pitta. One thing is because Amalaki is a Rasayana, so it can be given in so many forms. You can make a jam with it. In fact, the most important ingredient in a very important jam that we have is Amalaki. Can you tell me the name of the jam? Please, you can write it down on the whiteboard. Or you can write it down on this slide if you click on the T. What is the jam that Amalaki is used in, which is the most famous Ayurvedic jam or tonic? No one? Hello? Yes, absolutely, Chyawanprash. Yeah, but having said that, not all Chyawanprash are created equally. Also, of course, we know we've talked about Triphala so much, and Amalaki is the chief ingredient in Triphala. Well, not the chief, it's 33.3% Amalaki. We already know this. Let's move on to Arjuna. So Arjuna is a Hridaya Rasayana. Hridaya, what is Hridaya? Heart. So is heart an organ or a muscle? Is heart an organ or a muscle? So absolutely. So Arjuna tones up your muscles. It tones up your muscles, especially it is astringent and it's bitter. So anyone who has any kind of, so if somebody has, let's say, they have hypertension in their family, and there is some high cholesterol or artery blockage in the family. So it's not even they have it, it's something that runs in their genes. Then it's a good idea to just generally have Arjuna as part of their herb regime. It's very important. So A, it is very astringent, extremely bitter and cooling, but its vipak is pungent. Look at this. But vipak trumps over virya, trumps over vipaka. So both for pitta issues and kapha issues related to heart, hypertension, also related to vyanavata. So vyanavata, hypertension, vyanavata, it's a tonic. But it's not after that somebody's had a heart attack you want to give it. It's more a preventive measure. So it tones up the muscle, it gives strength to the heart. But normally if you want to give strength to the heart, you not just, because heart is where your soul Atma is, and heart is where Paramatma is. So that is what is giving, it's the start of the prana, the Atma is there. So normally when we are making a cardiotonic, we also put tulsi in it. Because tulsi has no direct connection with the heart, but we say also it's a cardiotonic because it has, it calms down the sadhak pitta, and the sadhak pitta resides in the heart. If somebody who's had emotional trauma, who's had issues in their lives, give them tulsi, give them Arjuna. Just, it's a preventative tonic as well. Again, there are no studies that I know, but I know they're doing clinical studies on tulsi. Arjuna, I know there have been studies done as part of the, cardiotonic. No questions about Arjuna? So if you had your textbook, which not everybody has, this is why I'm compiling this list, you will see that Sebastian Pohl will talk about how you combine different rasayanas and herbs. So Arjuna is usually never given alone. You can, but it's given with other herbs. So like we noticed, it was given with, lotus and rose. So I give it with, tulsi, Arjun. I will give it with sometimes sandalwood. And I will ask a person to wear pearls because usually, you're trying to bring the pitta down. So how you combine it is very important as well. And now this is, I think you know about Ashoka. The rasa is astringent and bitter, and its virya is cooling, vipak is pungent. So all kind of women-related issues. It has affinity for rakta dhatu. It has affinity for shukra dhatu. It has affinity for clearing out and establishing and lowering artava srotas. Pardon my English, I've been talking in Hindi the entire week. It's the first time I'm talking in English this week. So Ashoka has an affinity for rakta dhatu, shukra dhatu. Again, if you had the book, knowing which dhatu and which dosha the herb has an affinity for becomes really important. So because it's astringent, if somebody has any kind of bleeding disorders, so that is Ashoka is very good. So my question to you is, would you for somebody who has anemia? Because it's going to dry out the rakta. It'll dry it out. It'll slow it down. Okay. So you definitely it's contraindicated for vata. Okay, my question is, if you had a vata pitta person and they had pitta in rakta dhatu, would you give Ashoka? Yes or no? Would you? Let me write my question down. Maybe I didn't mix. And vata is definitely the culprit, but pitta has become really high. Would you give Ashoka? Yes or no? And definitely the artava srotas are, a lot of flow in the artava srotas. Too much flow. Would you give Ashoka? Absolutely good. Yes, absolutely. You would give Ashoka, but you would counteract the drying of Ashoka with other herbs like you've attended the women support. Especially you will find sometimes people have lots of allergies, especially Vata people. They're more prone to it. Then please do not give them complex formulation. Very simple things. Just give them Shatavari. That's it. Shatavari with ghee. Start them small. Let their body get used to it. And please let them know this is not something that I'll give you and tomorrow you'll feel better. They probably will just with the ghee. But it's a whole process and you need to work with them. Any questions? No? So some famous formulation of Ashoka is Ashoka Rishtam. We talked about that. Ashoka in a wine form. It's probably the most famous. I mean, you go to an Indian household, Dashamula Rishtam, Triphala, and Ashoka Rishtam. These are three herbs everybody has. But the problem is, even if they're Vata, they're taking it. Then you have women support formulas by most companies have Ashoka in them. Because Ashoka is drying and it has some not so good for Vata, some women support formula completely bypass Ashoka altogether, which is not good because it has such an affinity for clearing out Artava Srotas. Even if you have a blockage in Artava Srota, Ashoka is going to clear that out. So, it's good. Also, smooth cycle, I talked about that. It's very, very good herb. It has Ashwagandha, it's Ashoka, Shatavari, all women herbs, but it also has bhasmas in it. But again, you have to be careful with the bhasmas and, ask a person. If a person is got too many things going on, then just give them something simple like Shatavari. Do not give them, a complex formulation like hot flash relief. Ashwagandha. So the Ashwagandha usually they'll use the roots and they'll also use the berries and leaves are applied topically. So they will actually process the leaves and if someone has issues in their skin, they actually apply it topically. And the way to use it is you actually dry ashwagandha and then you process it properly so that it can be used as an herb. The only real study that has been done with ashwagandha is Alzheimer's. Extensively, one is ashwagandha and the other is turmeric. Again, turmeric has been studied for everything. So turmeric and ashwagandha have both been studied for Alzheimer's. And they have such a broad application that, but we need to know what studies are being done. And as students of Ayurveda, we should always be looking at new studies that are coming up and who's doing what. The rasa is bitter, it's astringent, it's sweet, its virya is heating, vipak is sweet, dosha is vata kapha. So you don't want to give too much of this to pitta. If you give it to pitta, they will be, hyper pitta. They will be jumping up and down. It can cause sometimes, I've known they will. It's like a, little child on coffee. They're bouncing off the walls, and sometimes the heart rate can go up. So please be careful not giving ashwagandha to pitta. Exactly, Krishan, because you are a pitta person. You already have a hyperactive mind, and I knew someone who was a pitta woman. And so she took a formulation, of her Ayurvedic doctor gave her a formulation, or practitioner, whosoever it was, which had ashwagandha in it. And she took it at night, and she had insomnia when she came to me. She said, I haven't slept in 3 months. And I said, okay, what do you do? She meditated, she did yoga, she had a good diet, she was vegetarian. And then she said, oh, by the way, I'm taking this formula at night. I said, are you kidding me? Stop taking it. You're stimulating yourself. It was like a 1,000 milligram, out of which 500 milligram was ashwagandha. I said, don't take it. So we removed ashwagandha, and that was the first night she slept 1 hour more. It took some time for the ashwagandha to get out of her system. So she had also become a little hyperactive and anxious because of too much ashwagandha. So you have to be careful. Just because there's not any, side effects known, it doesn't mean, how herbs affect all of us differently. And I've mentioned this before. Think of it as layers of onions. You take it one step at a time. When it comes to herbs and you're suggesting herbs, do it one step at a time. I give you another example. Oh yeah, see, because tulsi is exactly both. So that's what you did here was tulsi and ashwagandha are both adaptogens, and they actually lower stress. But tulsi will counteract the ashwagandha, so that is good. Tulsi will definitely counteract the stimulating effect of ashwagandha, because tulsi will lower the stress hormones. Ashwagandha will also lower them, but it has a ginseng stimulating effect. So that works. So again, how you mix, if you can mix ashwagandha with Amalaki and a little bit of tulsi, again, you're counteracting the ashwagandha effect as well. But of course, what time you're giving it, that's very important also. You don't want to give it in the pitta time, and you definitely don't want to give them just before they go to sleep. Okay, having said all of these things, some of the sleep formulations also have ashwagandha. Why the sleep formulation of ashwagandha when ashwagandha is stimulating at night? Can anyone think of a reason? No? If ashwagandha is stimulating, then why is it sometimes in sleeping herbs, Ayurvedic herbs? Yes, absolutely, because ashwagandha is an adaptogen, meaning it adapts itself to your stress. Now, I believe, and I know Shyam believes this too, that 90% of all problems come because we are producing too many stress hormones. We have our life is crazy. That's not how life is supposed to be. Is life supposed to be we are running around from here and there, meetings, then kids, and our life is so busy. And we are in that, what is it called? Fight or flight? Is it called fight or flight response? Yeah, it's called fight or flight. So we are in that mode day in and day out, which means we are producing all these hormones that we are only supposed to produce when we are under, emergency kind of stress. So the thing, what the tulsi and the ashwagandha, I would say that everybody needs to take a little bit of it because they adapt itself. If you wouldn't be surprised, I went to a conference It was an integrated health conference. So they had, people from different holistic health, and they had regular MDs. And there was a leading cardiosurgeon, and she spoke, and she said that 90% of the time she is prescribing stress killers and stress related herbs to her patients. Can you believe it? Because she says it's all coming from stress, and a lot of doctors are finding that the stress is the reason for pretty much every single modern disease. It's causing everything. So I was surprised because this was coming from a leading cardiosurgeon who practices Ayurveda, by the way, and she does meditation and TM, and wow, isn't that amazing? So yeah, she went on and she said, go exercise, meditate, and so they've actually started TM and other different type of meditation classes in the hospital. It's an integrated health center. So they've started that for their patients. You can. So of course, when Ashwagandha is an adaptogen, so it adapts itself to the amount of stress hormones that you're releasing. Now, since it has a stimulating effect, so it does calm down. If somebody has insomnia, and the reason they have insomnia is because they've been, stressed out all day, they've been running around all day. So mixing it with things like valerian, tulsi, ashwagandha, it really will, help the stress. But you don't give it just 1 minute before you go to bed. You give it maybe 3 hours before they go to bed. So because both ashwagandha and tulsi are adaptogens. So ashwagandha has some similar quality to ginseng. But what is the biggest difference between ashwagandha and ginseng? Yeah, it is uplifting for the mind as well. So I like to give ashwagandha for kapha people, especially kapha and tamasa. And that's me. If I go in the mode I cannot take a class, one ashwagandha will do for me. And also if you have, headaches or tension headaches, ashwagandha is wonderful for that. Because tension headache has come on because of, again, the stress hormones. Any other questions regarding ashwagandha? So, as practitioners, we know our herbs, but how we give them is very important. You have people who walk into a, health food store, Whole Foods, and, they have read about this herb, and they will just pick it up. Yep. So, because I've had people who have come to me who in the past have taken ginseng and it's helped them. So another thing, we are talking about stress, and with stress comes fatigue. And lately, especially in the last year, I found everybody who comes to me, they have an issue with fatigue. Because I have a questionnaire that they answer. So usually they'll say, oh, after lunch, I have this energy dip. Why do you think there's so much fatigue? And I'm seeing, and I've been reading study papers, there's such chronic fatigue. Why do you think that is? Oh, that's a good answer. Yes, definitely there's diet issues. And again, it comes back to the stress. If you are in that fight or flight from the morning and you're producing all these stress hormones, body is going to get depleted at some point in the day. And then people will take coffee to stimulate them. And then they will take, I know they take energy drinks. And it's all artificial stimulation. It's all artificial. So I don't know about ginseng. I've had people who've taken ginseng, and I know there's Korean ginseng, there's American ginseng, and this, because I don't know much about ginseng. I know that Atul has taken ginseng, and he would rather take ginseng than ashwagandha because he gets a better kick out of it because he has more energy. But because he has 18-hour work days sometimes because he's, in a very high-powered, high-stress job. So I would personally take ashwagandha. Again, I found people with chronic fatigue, adrenal issues also. Ashwagandha is very good because ashwagandha, the stimulating effect of ashwagandha, at the same time ashwagandha can be calming too. When mixed with other herbs like Amalaki or tulsi or valerian, can actually calm and relax the brain, at the same time uplift the mind, which I don't think ginseng can do. But if, again, like I said, if you can find out about that, Krishan, I would be, that would be nice. Any questions? So, please be very, very mindful of these herbs that you suggest for people. Everybody is different. Another thing you will find is, I don't know if any of you have already started doing, consults. I know, Rich, you're doing that. Olga, are you doing consults at all? You know, suggesting some Ayurvedic herbs? Oh, you're listening to me. Okay, even to friends. But you know, you will find that people will be, you know, they will take so many different things. I've known people, they walk into my office, and I usually tell people, if you're taking something, even if it's herbs, just bring it because I want to see what you're taking. I had one person, she walks in and she had this bag with her, and and she's a nurse. She takes ginseng, she gets this liver support, the Chinese stuff out, and then she takes like, all in all, she had 17 supplements that she was taking. Would you give anything to her? I told her, you need to take this off the table and make it simple because, and she, nothing was working for her, nothing. 17 supplements. She wasn't, you know, so you have to make it simple. And also, if somebody is on a naturopath or homeopathic, I would never give them Ayurvedic herbs because I don't know anything about homeopathy. So I will I'll tell them, finish your homeopathic dosage and then come to me. You don't want to mix. You definitely don't want to mix. They say that Ayurvedic herbs have no side effect, but of course they do. I mean, like I said, if you give too much of one herb to a different dosha, it can affect. Of course, the dosages are also important. Even overdoing it can cause some effect. Bhasmas can cause effect. So we need to be mindful of what we are giving. Always start small. We don't have to show how much we know about herbs. Just keep it simple. Alrighty. Now we move on to B. Yep, 1 hour is over. We're only on B. So B, I have Brahmi, Bhringaraj, Bhibitaki, Bhaume, Amalaki, and Bail or Bilva. So Western herbs, they will use licorice, but sometimes people are allergic to licorice and they can't stand the taste. If somebody tells you, I can't stand licorice, please don't give them any herb. If they don't like it, it's not going to work. Sometimes I make people smell the herbs. If they like it, I know it's going to work. So, you know, you need to also rely a little bit on the biofeedback from people. So Brahmi is a binding agent also. So just like in Western herbs, they will always use licorice to bind. So it doesn't matter what Western herbal formulation it is, you will find licorices in everything because it has a sticky quality. It sticks. Sometimes in Ayurveda they will use gluten also, you know. So you definitely want to stay away from that. I like to use Brahmi because it does sometimes it increases the efficacy of other herbs. It's pretty harmless. It has been clinically proven to, you know, show that it affects the memory. It actually works. It's a Nervine tonic. Here we go. It's a Nervine tonic. So it's like a Rasayana, but it's Nervine. And it works on the Majja Dhatu. So what are the problems that arise from Majja Dhatu? Majja Dhatu is your what? It is your central nervous system. It's your nerves. Can you give me example of certain, you know, imbalances or diseases that affect the nerves? Another herb that is very important for the nerves is Shankapushpi. When we reach S, we will talk about it. But yeah, so for these particular issues that we talk about, sometimes, you know, you will find that certain herbal formulations will mix. Then is Bhringaraj. Can anyone tell me anything about Bhringaraj? So Bhringaraj will actually improve that. It will prevent hair fall. So, oh my God, Bhringaraj is, in India, every woman will be using coconut oil with Brahmi and Bhringaraj. But that is a side effect. I mean, it kind of helps the hair and it makes the hair very beautiful. But it's a secondary effect. The most important is Bhringaraj helps to sleep. Yes, it's good for liver, but it helps to sleep. It calms you down. So we talked about other herbs like Ashwagandha, Bhringaraj, and Brahmi. So Bhringaraj is also when, you know, somebody has insomnia, sometimes, you know, Brahmi and Bhringaraj are mixed together in a base of coconut, especially for Sadak Pitta. And then, you know, you can do head massage. When you put Brahmi and Bhringaraj in sesame oil, then it can be given for Vata person. But mostly, most formulation will have Bhringaraj and Brahmi mixed together for insomnia. Hair fall, there's Mahabhringaraj Tailam. Also, there's Bhringaraj tablets because Bhringaraj has a very funny smell. Some people don't like it. And it's definitely done Shirodhara. It's used for Shirodhara. It gives very beautiful hair. And it's also sometimes given as a Nervine tonic as well. Anybody know anything about Bibitaki? You're all senior students now. Absolutely. This is the 33.3% of Triphala. So the first one was Amalaki, and then you have, of course, Bibitaki and you have Haritaki. It's great for digestion, but which one? Which is the one dosha it has affinity for? Bibitaki is detoxifying, it is lekhan. What is the one dosha it has an affinity for? Pitta, Kapha, or Vata? Kapha. So if you have Kapha person, you don't want to give them Triphala, just give them Bibitaki. Bhaumya Amalaki. Now this is not Amalaki. This is Bhaumya Amalaki. It's different. Anybody know anything about this? Okay. We'll talk about it in 1 second. Bilva? Bale? No one. Okay, let's move forward then. Brahmi. Brahmi is bitter and sweet. Its action is cooling. Its post-digestive effect is cooling. It's balancing for all dosha, but may increase vata in excess. But it's very good for vata also. So we give Brahmi with ghee to counteract that, because it's working on the nerves. Because all the nervous disorders are usually vata. Because it increases vata, you want to give it with ghee or you want to give it with kapha, rasa increasing food as well. So again, because you cannot give too much, so you have to think about the dosages as well. Any questions? Should we move forward? Bhaumya Amalaki. Now this is not Amalaki. This is not Amalaki. This is Bhaumya Amalaki. It's different. It's bitter, astringent, and sweet. Its virya is cooling, and vipak is sweet. It's balancing for pitta and kapha. It's a little bit drying. It's a little bit astringent. May increase vata. But actually, I don't even give too much to kapha because its vipak is sweet and it's cooling. So even for kapha, you want to, so the dosage, the way we'll do it, if we were to give Bhaumya Amalaki, because Bhaumya Amalaki is very tonifying, it tones you up. So if we have to give a dosage of Bhaumya Amalaki, because it is most balancing for pitta, you can give, let's say, 2 teaspoons a day to Bhaumya Amalaki. You can give 1 teaspoon a day to kapha, maybe half a teaspoon or 1/4 teaspoon to vata. This is how it's going to work. So depending on how, so when we make a bheshajya, or dosage plan, this is how you do it. You know this is the best herb for pitta, so you know that you can actually give more of it. And kapha, it's okay, a little less. It does increase vata, but right now we need. So sometimes for vata, I will take Amalaki and Bhaumya Amalaki and Haritaki and mix them together. Amalaki, Bhaumya Amalaki, both of them are best for pitta. But when I add Haritaki and I give it with ghee and vata pacifying diet, it can be given to vata. But again, it'll be small amount, maybe 1 teaspoon a day. That's it. Haritaki is the best herb for vata also. It's mostly tridoshic, but vata it's best. What is Bhaumya Amalaki used for? It's tonifying. It tones the dhatus, strengthens them. Yeah, it strengthens the dhatus. It strengthens your, so dhatu can, especially when there is dhatu kashaya issues, it also detoxifies them at the same time. Bhringaraj. Let me, hang on. Okay. So like I said, Bhringraj is again another Nervine tonic. It prevents hair fall. It's good for a number of things. But think of it this way. It's bitter, it's pungent, it's sweet. It's cooling, it's pungent. It's balancing for all dosha, especially Pitta. I would be careful with Bhringraj. Normally Bhringraj is never given on its own. Normally it's mixed either with the coconut or it's mixed with Brahmi or it's mixed with other Nervine tonics. So it's always given in a formulation. So you won't just give a Bhringraj tablet to somebody. It's always in a formulation. So when you want to give Bhringraj, you look up the herb company that you're going to use, and usually give the formulation out for a person. So let's find out someone research on this. But some research is being done for UTI with Bhringraj, and I think Rich had mentioned it's good for the liver. There has been some research which is being done. Again, there's no evidence yet, but for spleen-related disorders. I couldn't find anything which had Bhringraj in it. They were all selling on the web just the Bhringraj oil. Yeah, it's hard to find. It's never used on its own. But yeah, so UTI, spleen-related disorders, and even sometimes it is mixed in a formulation for Bhrajak Pitta as well. Mostly I use a formulation, for people who have insomnia and hair fall. So that insomnia thing helps the hair fall as well. Plus, applying it topically, it helps the Sadhak Pitta as well. So like I said, it's excellent for Sadhak Pitta. Baby Taki, of course, is astringent, sweet, it's heating, that's why it's best for Kapha. Why is it not best for Vata? Why is Baby Taki not best for Vata? In fact, it can increase Vata. Why do you think? Why is Baby Taki not good for Vata? Because it's astringent, it's too drying. Any herb which is too drying, and even if the Vipak is sweet, so you will give, we do give Triphala to a Vata person, but it also has Haritaki in it, which counteracts the astringent effect of Baby Taki. Please remember, Ayurveda does not believe in giving single herbs. We do, it's called Ekamulika, but there's not a lot of one herbs. Mostly we give herbal formulation, they are called kalpas. So we will normally give the kalpas, meaning we know that we need to give Hibitaki to a person who's Vata because they have, let's say, Ama in them. And we need to have the drying effects because we want to dry out scrape out the Ama. But we will mix it with something that counteracts the astringent effect of Ama. So for example, you have, not giving yogurt to a Kapha or Vata person. So if you have a probiotic yogurt or whey and it doesn't suit a Vata or Kapha, if you put black pepper in it, you put cumin in it, now you're counteracting the cooling effect of the yogurt by putting warming spices on the top. So that's the idea. Make sense? Mostly it's all about kalpas, it's a very, all the herbs have synergy. Now even in 50 hours, we can go deep into the synergy of Ayurvedic herbs. Some people have a gift for it. I've known people, they've touched herbs and they know. Some people have a gift for herbs. But if they do not talk to you or you're confused, just buy ready-made formulas. Don't try to mix them, please. Better to buy ready-made formulas. And there's so many companies. There's Himalaya, and there's Dabur, there is Maharishi Ayurveda, there's Banyan, there's Organic India. Very, very nice companies, so they know what they're doing. They've got expert Vaidyas there. So I would actually suggest you go for that. If you're going to study, herbology in detail for a long time, then maybe mixing your own formula is a good thing. It is very important. I just cannot, Also, sometimes people will come to you with oh, can you give me something for this? I have this problem. So when they're coming with the expectation that I'm going to take something and it's going to help me, it'll actually help them. It's like a placebo effect. So even if you give them something simple, you give them Triphala, or because They already have told their body and mind that whatever I take is going to work. You can give them something simple. I mean, you can give them a tea. You can give them tulsi tea. And it's going to work because they believe it will work. That is very important. All right. And this is the last of the B. Tomorrow, in the next class, we'll do, I think we have a C also. Hang on. Or we have C Chitrak. Yeah. So we're doing ABC today. Now, bilva is a beautiful fruit. I think I've talked about it before. Kind of is, it is like a, kind of looks like this. It's green. It's got a little hard green shell on the outside, like this. Almost like a coconut. It's pretty hard, but not as hard as a coconut. Think of it like fresh green coconut. It kind of looks like that. But if you break it, it has these fibrous orange colored juice and fibers inside it. And it's very juicy and it's very astringent and it's very bitter. And it's very heating and pungent. Actually, I think it's not heating. I think it's cooling. I need to check this. I think this is a typo. I think this might be wrong because it's given for IBS. It's given for disorders of intestines. Also, it has such high amount of fiber in it because it is very, very, fibrous, bitter herb inside it. So it's very good for cleansing and detoxifying the intestines. So it's used for that. There are also many other uses. Bilva is never usually given alone. It's always part of, usually, herbs like detox herbs or detox formulation. It'll be part of that. So let me check this. I'm pretty sure the action is cooling. It's not heating. So I did not make these slides. Well, bilva grows in hot tropical climate. So, it grows in Kerala. It grows in Bengal, right across the river as well. So I would think that it would be good for the pitta and it would be cooling. So let me just check that for you. I'm pretty sure it's cooling and it's good for pitta also. Cinnamon, coriander, cardamom, we've already done in Ayurvedic nutrition. So why don't you tell me something about cinnamon? Who is it good for? Cinnamon is warming. It is great for kapha. It's great for vata too. Finding herbs for kapha and vata both is hard. Cinnamon is one. It's very warming. We use it in all kind of kashayas. It is also given to people. I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe Olga, you can find out. Someone told me there are studies being done on pre-diabetic people. If you give cinnamon, it actually helps in sugar metabolism, but I'm not sure. So someone who came to me told me this, but I'm not sure because, I need to see the proof personally. Then you have coriander. It's very cooling. It's tridoshic, but it's cooling in nature. So it's excellent for, cinnamon is good for pre-diabetic. So it would, yeah, because we already know it's good for kapha. Okay, that's good. Okay. What about cardamom? What does cardamom do? Is cardamom warming or cooling, or what is the virya? What is the action of cardamom? First of all, when you chew cardamom, if you take pods of cardamom and you break it down, you put it on your tongue and you start chewing it, it actually helps in the production of saliva and salivary enzymes. Also, if you put it in your food and you actually drink milk with cardamom or whatever we use cardamom a lot, especially in sweets. And cardamom will also help in the production of digestive enzyme. It just helps the food to get digested better, pretty much. So we already knew this, so I'm not going to go these in detail. Remember, Dravya, we're doing herbology. Dravya includes both the spices that we have, and it includes herbs. And this is a very important herb. And if somebody is trying to lose weight and they're kapha, hello, Chitrak. It is pungent, it's bitter, it's heating. It is excellent. It's excellent for removing, I call it my phlegm buster formula, phlegm, mucus, and It is also Ama Buster. This is a Manjulaliism for you. And it's definitely a Kapha Buster. Here you go. It removes kapha like nobody's business. So, and it's very, it's also a little bit drying. You definitely want to avoid, don't give it to pitta. Completely contraindicated for pitta person. And also when pitta gain weight, pitta will only gain weight around the middle because, in the middle is your liver, there's your spleen, and that's where they're sensitive. And that is the area that gets covered with a layer of fat. But a kapha will, they have a tendency of gaining weight. So most of the weight loss formulation for kapha will usually include, here we go, Gugulu, Chitrak, and Garcinia. Unfortunately, when you take these herbs, you also have to do a kapha diet without milk and without wheat and really, low amount of fat. And it really helps in weight management. I have done it only a few times and I lose a bit weight, then I start drinking milk and taking wheat again and it climbs back up. But I've been there. So it's pretty good. I know there's some studies done. What I'm going to do in the herbology section is start, sharing the clinical studies. And they're actually provided free by the government of India, Ayurveda, and Naturopathy Department. So they actually sponsor all these studies and they publish them free. Some of them have actually been published in the PubMed as well. So, we don't expect you, in 50 hours, what will you go? And you'll be actually going and checking each study. But, if you're interested, that's a good idea. Okay. Now I'm kind of just going very quickly to what exactly is Dravya. Dravya comes from the root dru. It means a substance or ingredient. This is not ahara. Ahara means something we ingest or eat. Dravya is not something that we are actually eating. It can be applied topically on your body. It can be an oil that you put on your head. It can be something that you rub on your foot, for example, Udvartan treatment. It is not necessarily something that you will ingest. So that is the big difference between Dravya and ahara. So when we talked about Ayurvedic nutrition, ahara means something you ingest, something you eat. You would think, aren't herbs something we eat? No, that's not true, because sometimes we apply them topically. Sometimes we massage with them. Sometimes we smell them. So we are actually, for Dravya, we are using all the 5 senses. Ears, nose, so you are using all your senses for the Dravya. You are, putting it in your skin, you're inhaling the aroma, you are gargling with them, you're actually ingesting them, you're applying them in your ears, and when you actually go, think of yourself as urban herbalist, because you're actually not going to go into a jungle or a forest and try looking for herbs. But if you were to do that, one of the most important tool for an herbalist, it's sense of smell. And as a kid, my dad would never allow me to use perfume. As a teenager, oh my God, I couldn't use perfume because he said if you use perfume, you cannot smell. So even now, I just smell everything. So now I can, and if you have the smell where you can actually smell if the herb is astringent, over years you develop that. If it's heating, you can actually smell it. You can smell it. I know a lot of people have that, like people who work in the perfumeries, they can smell and tell how delicate or what is a perfume like. And even people who work in the tea industry use their nose. So in herbs, we also use our nose. But since we are using mostly dried herbs or ready-made formulas, we don't need to use it. Also tactile, by touching it, by the texture. Oh, sorry, I didn't write the eyes here. By looking at it, just by looking at it, For example, in Shatavari, you're using the root, right? So by looking at it, you know, yeah, because you're using the root of shatavari, or you're using the mint leaves, for instance. So by looking at it, and then you smell it, and you know that this is the right herb. Okay. So what is Dravya? Think of Dravya has a chemical composition. Dravya has a chemical composition, and it is a, Ayurvedic chemical composition is called Panchamahabhautik composition. It has two things. It has a karma, guna, and prabhava. It has attributes. And herbs and minerals are also Dravya. Sometimes you'll ask somebody to wear pearls. That is also Dravya. You have high pitta, wear pearls, wear coral ring, wear a moonstone. That is also Dravya. That's part of the Dravya. So very quickly we are going to go through this. This is the first lecture. Dravya is a substance that has a quality and action. If Dravya is edible, it has further attributes, with the lower attribute being more important than the previous one. It's any substance. Even a rock is a Dravya. Even a rock is a Dravya. Can you give an example of a rock that is used in Ayurveda for eating? Rock salt. Rock salt is used. So first of all, we already know there are 6 rasas. So Dravya has a rasa, especially if you're tasting it from your tongue. If it's a Dravya, for example, if it is pearls or it's some kind of mineral, then it usually has a guna and a karma. Then it just basically has guna and karma. And it has a prabhava, then it may not have a rasa or vibhava because you're not eating it. And I think we did this before, Virya trumps over rasa, vipaka trumps over virya, guna trumps over vipaka, karma trumps over guna, and prabhava is most important. So something may be sweet, but if its virya is heating, then it's good for kapha. Something may be bitter, but its virya is, something may be heating, but its virya may be cooling, right? Because it's bitter, you would think it's heating, but it may not be. Vipak may be sweet, but it may still be good for kapha. So we all of that, at the end of the day, what is the action of the herb and what is the affinity to the dhatus and the doshas? Very important. So this is something that we will do again, and I'm preparing a little test for it. When vata travels into rasa dhatu, it causes eczema, rough, dry skin, poor circulation. And then for vata in rasa dhatu, some herbs to be given are ginger, tulsi, and mahasudarshan. You have no choice. Print it out and memorize it. Or, there is no way in one day you will learn it. One thing is you make a chart and make a study list and kind of keep it with you. And over a period of time and over a period of maybe years, it will stick. It's knowledge. It will stick. But having these, having it for a reference is a good idea. If you have pitta in rasa dhatu, like acne, inflamed reddish skin, swollen lymph nodes, then good herbs are neem, aloe, and peppermint. If you have kapha in rasa dhatu, then for example, they have asthma, bronchitis, eczema, also sometimes acne. But this acne is not regular red acne. It's kind of like a pimple which has some greenish or whitish tinge. It's not your regular acne, which is red inflamed skin. Then dry ginger, kanchanar, and trikutu. Very important. So this is just the rasa dhatu, and next time we will move more into just the rasa dhatu and herbs for increasing rasa dhatu and herbs for decreasing rasa dhatu and herbs for balancing rasa dhatu, herbs for clearing out the rasa vahasrotas. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, I'm going to be posting this lecture on Ayurvedic Bhaishajya that is by Dr. Sahana. I started transcribing her lecture. And this is the class that she had done last time. I'm going to be playing it